important national seminar on reimagining education for the 21st century learners. And now I will be giving a small brief about the eminent speaker who is going to take over the session today. She is none other than Dr. Sauli Mukherjee, Dean, Director Education, Director Student Welfare, AKS University, Calcutta. She is not only a national figure, but she is invited international speaker also, and she is involved in several other developmental, educational, and professional activities too. Welcome, ma'am. We would like to welcome you on behalf of whole AKS University fraternity. We would like to welcome our Pro Vice Chancellor Development, Professor Harshvardhan Srivastava sir, an eminent economist and national award winner. On behalf of whole fraternity, once again we would welcome Dr. Sauli Mukherjee from Kolkata for this session. I would invite our Pro Vice Chancellor sir to tell few words about the national webinar. Our Pro Vice Chancellor Development, Professor Harshvardhan Srivastava sir, an eminent economist. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee.
Thank you, sir.
I really appreciate the idea which your department has developed about the re-imaging of the new technology in higher education. And particularly, I welcome at this juncture, Dr. Sauli Mukherjee on behalf of AKS University. As a Pro Vice Chancellor, I feel and I do appreciate that such type of interaction or discussion must take place between the teachers and the professors who have vast experience, like Dr. Sauli Mukherjee has developed her idea about the reimagining of the 21st century higher education system. And we are already witnessing, we have witnessed the impact of COVID-19 for the last 1.5 years or so. And we have been, we are grateful that with the latest advent of technology, virtual mode, most of the universities have switched over to this type of system, and students are being imparted. They are being given education with the latest technology, which was rarely used earlier, which was not commonly used, rather I should say. And now the economy needs a vast potential for the students who can serve the country and abroad. And for that reason, knowledge is always required. And with the traditional knowledge we were imparting or we were witnessing, the method of teaching earlier, of course, that was a traditional way of teaching. And it was, of course, still we do realize that it had a very good impact over the students and the community as a whole. But looking to the present circumstances at the global level, I feel that such type of technology must be adopted by us, particularly the teachers should be conversed with this technology as early as possible. There are lot of improvements have been made during this 1.5 year by changing so many things by computer science, particularly artificial intelligence and cloud computing has taken place, and so many things have been introduced. So I feel that today Sauli Mukherjee's lecture, her valuable speech would be beneficial not only for the teachers, but students will be also benefited. And sometimes we would like, I request Dr. Mukherjee also, our head HOD, that sometimes you may invite Sauli Mukherjee to this university so that we can have a direct interaction with the students. So thank you very much. this economy needs changing in the changing scenario. So many things have to be told to the students in a different way. Now the pattern has changed, and according to the pattern of conversation, the teachers must also take a revolutionized approach, how to convince their students in a more and in a more important way. That is very important. So the interaction of the students with the teachers, how to keep the things in their memory, how to how they should be more conversed about the latest changing development in the subject. That is also required, and how the memory can be restored. That is also the problem. But I feel that this type of reimagining of the new technology in the higher education will be beneficial for the students, and that is why UGC has also transformed and given instructions that 40% of the teaching must be by the virtual mode, and it should be it is being implemented in our university in a very good manner. And I feel pride that Dr. under the guidance of Dr. Mukherjee and his other colleagues, management department is doing very good work, and the students are also happy with their teaching and other things. Thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words at this juncture. Again, I welcome Dr. Mukherjee, and I would like to hear her because it may be helpful to me also as an economist, as a student of economics. I also feel that this technology was not available earlier, and we were deprived of this technology. But looking to this changing scenario, I think that this technology should be developed in a more better way. How it can be more comfortable to the students, how the students should be more made more interesting, more interested in the subject. That is also a challenge before the higher education professors. So thank you very much, Dr. Mukherjee. And I again appreciate and welcome Dr. Shauli Mukherjee on this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your nice words. So once again, today I'll be inviting and welcoming our chief speaker, Dr. Sauli Mukherjee from AKS University, Kolkata. Now, ma'am, the e-platform is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wishing you all a very, very good morning. Right at the very outset, I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to AKS University for organizing this webinar and inviting me on this platform to address the August gathering. Along with that, I would like to specially thank Dr. Srivastav for setting the context so well with his well-intentioned speech. And of course, my thanks to Dr. Kausik Mukherjee for inviting me on this platform, especially because today's topic, and that is reimagining education and learning for 21st century learners, it is the need of the hour, and it is something which is so very close to my heart. So right at the very outset, I would like to say that we have all realized now that the 21st century world, the world that we live in, is a VUCA world. And that is, it is a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world where we are faced with unique and unheard of challenges almost on a daily and regular basis. Now, since the turn of the century, the chaotic, the turbulent, and the rapidly changing environment in which we live have actually become the new normal for all of us. Exploding technological developments, dramatic demographic growth, immigration, ecological disasters, and geographical trends. They have all disrupted our lives at an ever-increasing pace and rate. Now, these circumstances, definitely accelerated by the global pandemic, have caused a major breakdown of order in almost all sectors, and that definitely includes the sectors comprising education and higher education. as the four VUCA components of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, they interact with each other in chaotic and sometimes in really conflicting ways and manner. Now, in the last 1.5 years since the world has been embroiled in the global pandemic, there have been considerable dialogues, debates, and discussions about how higher education should both cope with its immediate threat while also considering pivots towards new models and innovations for the future. Now, actually, thanks and courtesy to the COVID times, which had caused major disruptions to our traditional thought patterns concerning education, on the positive note, and have actually compelled all of us to act and think out of the box and embrace considerable flexibility and adaptability and devise innovative strategies and methods to significantly address the emerging complexities concerning the sphere of higher education. Now, if I have to state certain statistics pertaining to the outcome of higher education in our country, I would say that these are not very happy statistics. These are quite disturbing. We all know that more than 50% of the graduates, after completing their formal higher education, do not even manage to get a decent job. And employers would moreover reconfirm the fact that more than 80% of the ones, those who do manage to somehow get a job, are not capable enough to retain those jobs, and that they have to be reskilled and they have to be reoriented on the job front. So we have to understand that if one of the major aims of our education system is to ensure a somewhat decent living after the completion of the formal higher education, we cannot help but agree to the fact that our current education system is miserably failing. And one of the major reasons of that being the fact that there is an ever widening gap between academia and industry expectations. Now, academia is undoubtedly failing to prepare the learners to match the industry standards, expectations, and readiness. And one of the major implications of that being that the system is increasingly churning out more job seekers rather than more job creators. Now, we all know that traditional educational norms force the young learners to metaphorically draw and color within the lines. That is to conform, to complete, to compete, and to comply. To comply, conform, and to compete. I mean, the three C's, you know. Every learner is given the same amount of time to learn the same thing in the same way and preferably on the same day. So no wonder that the learners they struggle hard to realize their true potential. Additionally, there are a number of uh, you know other factors which are embedded in our current education system, and I would like to call them as inherent flaws in the current education system, which needs to be addressed with significant urgency. Say, for instance, the example of standardized testing. Now, standardized testing is something which is prevalent across all the spheres of education system in our country, and it's not only in our country, even abroad. Now, we have to understand that standardized test one, which we give so much of importance and priority, it is a kind of a system which actually tests the learner's ability to conform and to comply. But it does not give any leverage or priority in determining the learner's creativity and innovation. Secondly, right from the very childhood, we try to impress the fact upon our children, and we sort of applaud them if they're able to color and draw within the lines. We tend to applaud them if they're able to do that. But ironically, we expect the same child, when he or she grows up, to be an out of the box thinker. I mean, it's really ironic. It can never happen because they are being indoctrinated to be within the boundaries since childhood. So they can never evolve into an out of the box thinker when they grow up. Thirdly, our entire education system gives a lot of importance in finding out one correct answer or in finding out one correct solution to a problem or a question. But rather, it should have given a lot of importance and priority to the students when they would be coming up with a meaningful and thoughtful question. Additionally, also, if we consider, we see that there is a lot of priority given to only one kind of quotient, and that is intelligence quotient. But significant research has proved that more than 80% of the success in your life, be it in professional field or in your personal endeavors, it actually rests on your EQ and not IQ. It depends on how wonderfully you're able to understand the emotions of others as well as yourself and how you're able to manage those emotions. And lastly, I would also like to say that, as educators or as parents, we tend to give a lot of importance since childhood on the fact that the children, they have to come first in everything. So be it in academics or in sports or in extracurricular activities, I mean, they have to come first in everything. So cutthroat competition is the key. And we tend to indoctrinate that within our children, forgetting the fact that the two important skill sets that are actually required to thrive in the 21st century world happens to be cooperation and collaboration and not cutthroat competition. So, judging by all these things, I sometimes feel that our current education system does not need, any kind of reformation or any kind of quick fix or any kind of tweak. Because when we speak about reformation, what we actually mean is that we are trying to mend a broken model. So, no, that is not what our education system requires right now. Rather, what it requires is a complete overhaul, a complete revolution. And nothing short of a revolution is going to work for our current education system. We have to understand the basic fact that the real world, which is beyond the confines of the fancy physical infrastructure of a higher educational institution, actually rewards those amply, those who are able to think out of the box and to carve their own path. And in order to sustain and thrive in the 21st century, ever increasingly complex workforce, the learners have to be oriented more towards collaboration and cooperation rather than cutthroat competition. Now, in order to address and the challenges of the emerging global complexities, we do not need mechanically trained minds. COVID has made it very, very clear that the world does not require mechanically trained minds, minds which are loaded with facts and figures, minds which are systematically formulated to think alike. No, that is not what the world requires right now. What the world requires are creative and innovative minds, minds which are able to think out of the box, which are capable of out of the box ideation and divergent thinking. So that is the need of the hour, and that is what the world requires right now. Along with that, there has to be a significant focus on the prioritization of essential 21st century skills. Skills such as critical thinking, effective and complex problem solving, effective decision making, and at the same time nurturing one's emotional intelligence, which is very, very important. Also giving due importance to a lot of other kinds of quotients and stop highlighting only on one kind of quotient, that is intelligence quotient. Now, when I say other kinds of quotient, what do I mean? I specifically mean emotional quotient, the EQ, I mean creativity quotient, CQ, the passion quotient, PQ, the happiness quotient, HQ, the spiritual and the social quotient, SQ, and most importantly, what COVID has brought in front of all of us, that we need to develop AQ in our learners, and that is adversity quotient. How will the learners be able to, the young learners, the young children who are the future of our nation, will be able to deal with the vagaries of existence, the uncertainties of the future? So it is the need of the hour to develop the AQ, and that is adversity quotient among our children. So this is exactly what, the things that our current education system needs to incorporate. Now, since today I'm going to speak about reimagining education and learning for 21st century learners, I think it is very important for all of us to understand few important characteristics of the 21st century learners, whom we usually term as Generation Z. Now, what are the characteristics of Generation Z? Because we are all dealing with them in our classrooms, right? So Generation Z is actually entrepreneurial. So they are potential risk takers. They have creative and innovative ideas, and they're not afraid to chase those ideas. They believe that everything that they do not know currently is a simple click or two away. They are digital natives, as opposed to us who are actually digital migrants. So they understand one thing, and that is instant gratification. They are focused, they are competitive. Patience is a lost art for them. They want everything now. They welcome change. They constantly seek new ideas and experiences, and they're always up for new challenges. They prefer freedom and independence. They want to be heard. They believe that their ideas are extremely valuable. Freedom of expression is very, very important for Generation Z. They truly care and they want to make a positive difference in the world. They have a desire to create or find meaning in almost everything that they do. They have a motivation to contribute positively to the world. They are technology dependent as opposed to technology fluency. Technology dependence for them is actually not an addiction, which we usually mistake. We usually think that they are addicted to technology, but they are not. It's not technology addiction for them. Rather, they view their digital devices as extension of themselves. They truly live and breathe the virtual connection life. Social media is a crucial element to this generation. They're not after work life balance as much as they want to establish a proper work life blend. They are always expecting flexibility with their work and schedule as well as with life in general. So, if these are some of the characteristics of the 21st century learners, the learners with whom we deal on a day-to-day basis in our classroom, whether offline or online, we have to understand that for them, the conventional and orthodox educational norms will not work. Because our current education system is a byproduct of the 19th century industrial revolution, which promotes a one size fits all educational structure. And I call it an industrial factory model of productivity, which treats all the learners essentially in the same way and does not acknowledge the creativity, the individuality, the innovation, and passion of the learners. So, from this organized, formal, and rigidly structural form of education, we have to make a shift towards personalized, happy, fulfilling, stress free, and organic learning ecosystem, which I feel, and I'm sure which a lot of progressive educators would feel that it is actually the need of the hour. Now, for this, in order to make this happen, uh, We have to allow our young learners more time which they can effectively utilize in following their passion, in following their interest, their curiosity, creating, sharing, and exploring and experimenting with their ideas. We have to stop stigmatizing failures and mistakes, and we have to realize that these too are essential ingredients of any effective learning experience. If we truly want the present generation to evolve into creative problem solvers, we must give them ample scope to explore the three essential E's, and that is play, passion, and purpose. It is only a potent combination of play, passion, and purpose that actually make a person truly creative. And we must allow these creative minds to not only seek innovative solutions to the problems, but also to spot inherent problems in the existing solutions. I also believe that the learners should have more, ownership and responsibility of their learning. And in order to make that happen, they must have both choice as well as voice to determine and express what, where, and how they would want to learn. Now, in order to nurture these creative minds of our learners, it is actually very, very important and significant that the educators, the education leaders, the education policymakers, and in fact the entire educational fraternity should come together in order to reimagine education and learning for the 21st century learners, where they can ultimately evolve into self motivated and lifelong learners. Now, both the educators as well as the learners, they have to wholeheartedly embrace the benefits of any time and anywhere learning. And they have to stay committed all through their career in education, all through their tenure in education, to learning, relearning, and unlearning as well. Now, in fact, one of the positive offshoots of the global pandemic happens to be the paradigm shift from teaching to learning when it comes to the educators, whom we definitely presume would continue to inspire, to motivate, and to stimulate, and at the same time to facilitate the love for lifelong learning among the learners as well as themselves. Now, it is for all of us to realize now more than ever and to appreciate the fact that teaching is not a mechanical task of transferring knowledge and content from one person to another. It is rather one of the most sophisticated and one of the most creative professions in the world, which helps enable the young learners to evolve into a more confident, equipped, dynamic, and authentic version of themselves. A truly reimagined education system will have actually mentors instead of teachers and learners instead of students. So, this is the shift that is required. So, we need mentors and we need learners. We don't require teachers and students anymore. Now, from the sage in the stage, the teacher has to evolve into a mentor who will be a guide by the side, a co learner, a friend, a coach who will not indoctrinate, teach, or give all the answers, rather, will probe the learners to seek the answers themselves. Similarly, a student is syllabus oriented and only learns for getting a degree or getting a mark sheet or a certificate. But a learner moves from this structured, a learner is somebody who learns for the sake of learning, for the joy of learning. A learner moves from a structured learning to organic learning. He memorizes less and he applies more, and thus becomes a human resource from a mere human being. I think we must all understand that, uh, you know, just as the climate crisis in the form of global warming is causing a havoc in the world currently, there is another significant crisis, and that is of the human resources, which should be dealt with the same urgency and importance as the former. Now, human resources, we have to understand, they are very much like natural resources, often buried deep, and they do not show up unless you look for them and create suitable conditions in which they can actually thrive. And this applies to our learners, to our educators, and education leaders as well, because education is not a mechanical process. It is basically and primarily a human process because we deal with human beings. Now, one of the greatest mistakes that we all do as educators, when we start terming ourselves as, something like I'm a teacher of English, or I'm a teacher of geography, or I'm a teacher of maths. No, that is not what we are. We are not teaching subjects. We are teaching the learners who are essentially human beings. So the human element in education has to be brought back, or it has to be retained in significant urgency, which I feel is the need of the hour. In fact, one of the significant learnings that COVID-19 has gifted all of us is that there is absolutely no substitution, and there cannot be, in fact, any substitute to investing in human capital, in human potential, and in human resource. It seems that it needed one C to bring about the power and importance of another C. That is, it required a COVID or a corona to bring about the power and importance of collaboration and connectivity. The pandemic has impressed upon the fact that the educators cannot continue to work in silos anymore, and that they have to collaborate, they have to share and exchange their viewpoints, their ideas, concerns, and insights in order to make real learning visible and possible. And we all know, in fact, when we speak about collaboration, we know that, as teachers, the greatest resource that we can have is actually each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited only to our own perspective. And lastly, with respect to both the teachers and also the taught, another important and key ingredient is engagement. As it is said that when a teacher fails to engage the learners, he or she ends up in enraging them. So if you do not want to enrage your learners, you have to engage them in meaningful manner. We all know that the increasing rate of student dropouts across all the stages of education itself presents an extremely alarming statistics. But to me, that is merely the tip of an iceberg. More alarming is, in fact, the percentage of students who do not technically drop out from the system but remains utterly disengaged with the process of education all throughout their tenure in education for no fault of theirs. Probably because of a disengaging and a narrow curriculum which fails to speak to their specific interest, passion, and talent. Disengaged learners often pick up careers and professions wherein they do not love the work that they do, but rather somehow endure it due to either financial or societal pressure. Now, we have to understand that outdated contents, utterly dissociated from the real life context and experiences, which most of our institutes still continue to deliver, either through curriculum or through pedagogy, will continue raising a generation of disengaged and disinterested learners as well as professionals. Now, if we want to raise a generation of happy and successful individuals, we must recognize and celebrate the creative genius, the inquisitive mindset, the talent, and the individuality that each and every child brings along with him or her. The one size fits all and factory model of education must inevitably give way to a more personalized, more fulfilling, and a more creative form of education. And I believe that the teachers have enormous power and responsibility in their hands, because it is still in the hands of the teachers that the future of our nation and, in fact, the future of the entire world lies. So it is an enormous position of power and responsibility, and they have the greatest role, responsibility, and ownership in transforming our current education system. So I would like to conclude my deliberation by posing a very, very thoughtful question to all those who are listening to my deliberation today. understanding the basic fact that our current education system does not need any reformation, but it requires a revolution. Should we still continue to align ourselves with a system that encourages our learners to follow and not to lead, to fit in instead of stand out, and to conform instead of challenging the status quo? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a nice deliberation. Shortly, our chairperson will also join. So, sorry, there was a technical glitch. So there was a break in the transmission. Actually, I received a message from our chairperson. Uh, he told it was a very nice deliberation, but he is unable to join today because he is in a very important assignment in Bhopal. So I would like to thank Sauli ma'am for her nice speech, valuable speech, and I would like to tell ma'am almost 250 viewers were there in the YouTube and in our local AKS live channel. And I know that you are having a very tight schedule today. So anyhow, it was a very nice speech. We would like to thank you for from the bottom of our heart. We would like to thank the whole team of webinar, Ms. Shweta Singh, Mrs. Shinu Shukla, our IT team, Professor Hasvardhan sir, our Pro Vice Chancellor Development, and our chairperson who is always working for us through the back office support, and our administrative team for creating such a nice platform for us. Ma'am, we would like to invite you in future also, and we are very grateful and thankful to Sauli ma'am once again. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It had been a pleasure for me to be on this platform and share my views with all the interested viewers. Thank you so much once again, and wishing you all a very, very great day ahead. Thank
Thank
you.
you.